Hey everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review. And today's review is in association with MarvelousNews.com, your #1 news source for everything Marvel. And for today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at a brand new action figure line called Marvel Toybox. These are put out by Disney, and these are Disney Store exclusives. You can pick them up on their website or their physical stores. They come packaged in a standardized card back with a white and red background. Up in the corner, you've got the Disney Store logo, and then off to the side, you have the Marvel Toybox logo. The figures are clearly displayed, and then down below, you have the names of each of the characters. Then on the back of the packaging, it's the same for all three figures. There's actually 4 figures in this Marvel wave. There's a Spider-Man figure, which you can see on the back. However, that figure, for some reason, did not get released today. These figures are hitting shelves as of today, but for some reason, Spider-Man was held back. All right, let's get these open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figures outside the packaging. Now, they are doing figures for Star Wars and Toy Story as well as Marvel, and those have started to hit shelves as well. I actually got a couple of the Star Wars ones, which I'll be reviewing in the next day or so. And then they've included this little catalog that shows other figures that have yet to be announced. So it looks like 3 more Marvel figures, 2 female and 1 male character. And then 4 for Toy Story that haven't been announced, and 3 for Star Wars. And again, as I mentioned before, even though the Spider-Man figure should have been in the first wave, it did not actually get released today. Now, these figure designs are based on the Disney Infinity video game, which Disney actually canceled. Now, that game had figures associated with it, but those figures did not have articulation. So they've basically gone and taken those designs and added some articulation to them. Now, these figures aren't the exact same ones previously released, only with articulation. Like Iron Man, this armor looks more like something from Spider-Man Homecoming. But again, they are essentially that same design from the Infinity video game. Now, starting with Thor, I think they've done a pretty good job with these figures. Each one has a very animated style look to it, but again, that's in keeping with the video game, the Infinity video game. And I like how Thor's head sculpt looks. He's got this lighter yellow color hair, and then he's got a darker yellow for his beard and mustache and his eyebrows. So I think they've done a pretty good job with that. And I like how his facial expression looks. It's pretty fitting for Thor. And he's got this red cape, which is done with a vinyl material, and it just connects here on the front. And then he's got that basic Thor type outfit with the discs on the front. And then you've got the darker gray shirt with some blue lines. And then he's got lighter gray pants, and then again darker gray boots that match his shirt. And then he's also got some wrist guards, which are done with a darker gray color similar to his shirt and boots. I do have a little bit of sloppiness with the paint here on the one guard. It kind of comes over on the skin, but not a major deal. Also on this one as well, it looks like it's rubbed off a little bit. But overall, the paint applications, while basic, are pretty solid on this figure. And then the only accessory he comes with is his hammer, and there's not a lot of paint detail on this. It's done with just a gray plastic, and then you've got the brown handle that looks like has the wrappings on it, and the handle is done with just a soft rubber type material. Now, the hands are done with a hard plastic, so it can be kind of hard to get them to hold the accessories at first. You have to kind of squeeze them in there, but once you get them in there, they do hold them nice and tight. Now, with Thor, he can only hold the hammer in his right hand. The left hand is sculpted with a closed fist, so he can't hold anything in that one. The Iron Man figure is probably my favorite of the 3 that have been released so far. And I like the paint detail with the yellow and the maroon color red. And then he's got white here on his chest, unibeam or arc reactor, and then a darker gray color. So again, this armor seems kind of reminiscent of the one that he wears in Spider-Man Homecoming. And I think they've done a pretty good job here. And he's got the repulsor blast on his hands and some yellow striping down here on his boots. So again, very basic paint applications, but no real sloppiness on this one. Now, I will point out that the joints on his legs with this one are a bit on the loose side, and I'll take a closer look at the articulation with these in just a minute. Now, the only accessory they've given Iron Man is this one blast effect for, I guess, his wrist. I believe you're supposed to just kind of hook it around his wrist, or maybe his hand. It probably actually works better and looks better if you do it around his hand, because this is made with just a rubber material. It's a blue translucent rubber type material, and this little clip is not very tight, so if you do it around his wrist, A, it's not matched up with his repulsor blast, and B, it's going to be kind of loose. So I guess it would probably be better if you do it around his hand. It'll actually stay tighter and then matches up with the actual repulsor blast on his hand. Now they only gave him one. It would have been nice if maybe they gave him two of these things, but as it is, you just get the one. And then the final figure is Hulk, and he is the biggest of the bunch. He is definitely bigger than the other two figures, even Thor. He is much wider than the others. Now, I don't like his facial expression as much as the others. His is my least favorite head sculpt. And I also have a little bit of sloppiness with the paint on this one near his eyebrow and on his forehead. So some of the darker green from his hair is gotten onto the lighter green color. And otherwise, it's pretty basic. You do have some nipples here, but otherwise it's just this light green color. He's wearing those Avengers Age of Ultron type pants, which are done with a kind of bluish purple, and then you've got the red striping. There is no Avengers logo on it though, and then he doesn't have any kind of shoes or anything. So out of the three, this is probably my least favorite, but still it's not a bad looking figure. And he comes with this accessory. It looks like a bent up pipe. So you can kind of put it in his one hand. You can kind of squeeze it in on the left hand here that does have an open grip, or you can kind of try and wedge it between the two hands if you want to. So it's not much you can really do with this, and this is done with just a soft rubber type material again. It's harder than the other accessories are, but it's still, especially here at the end where it's thinner, it is definitely something where it kind of bends, and it's done with just a gray plastic. There's no paint detail on it. Now these figures are listed as being 4 inches, but Iron Man here, he actually stands about 5 1/4 inches tall, and then Hulk here is just under 6 inches, and Thor is about 5 3/4 inches tall. Okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning, these figures do have articulation, which sets them apart from the actual figures they did for the video game. So with these, you can turn the head, and you can turn it left or right. Now Thor, his is limited a little bit because of the longer hair, but you can kind of lift the hair up. The hair is done with just kind of a fairly soft rubber material, so it does have some flexibility. Of course, I just popped the head off there because it just attaches with the ball joint, so just be wary of that. But then the arms attach with your standard ball hinge joint, so he can get his arm out pretty good, and he's got good rotation. Even with the cape, you can still rotate the arm around. Has single hinged elbow, so can bend the elbow about that much, and then has rotation at the elbow, has rotation at the wrist, and then have hinges on the hand, so you get some up and down movement. They do not have any kind of ab crunch, but they do have waist swivels. And then the legs are attached with ball joints, so Thor can do the splits about that much. He's got these pieces that come down from his shirt that kind of limit the movement there, but he can do the splits about that much. And this again is done with a fairly soft rubber type material. It's a harder plastic than like the cape, but it still has some flexibility. And again, those kind of limit his forward movement as well. You can only do it forward about that much and back about that much. Legs are single hinged knees, so it can only bend the knees about that much. And then again, you have rotation at the knees. And then with the feet, you don't really have any ankle pivot, and you do have a little bit of rotation. Now the way the bottom of the leg is cut, it does limit some of that movement, but basically you have rotation, and you do have hinges, so you do have some up and down movement with these, but again, no ankle pivot. And then you get 2 peg holes on the bottom of the feet. Now Iron Man's articulation is pretty much the same as Thor's, other than he does also have a hinge joint here on the neck, so you do get some up movement with the head for flight poses, which is actually pretty nice. And then Hulk's articulation differs from Thor a bit as well, so you also get a hinge joint on the neck with Hulk. This allows him to look down some and then straight ahead, but he really can't look up very much the way the neck is sculpted and everything. And then with Hulk, his elbow joints are just cut joints, so you've just got the rotation there at the elbow, but you don't have any actual bending. And then the other difference between Thor and Hulk is he has no knee joints, he just has these thigh swivels. Okay, so that's my review. So overall, I would say if you're a fan of the Infinity video game, or you like the figures that were released for that game and always wanted articulation on those kinds of figures, I think these are something you'll definitely want to check out. Now these figures cost $12.95 each, and again, these are Disney Store exclusives, so you'll either need to go into a physical Disney store or go to their website. They are available now. We'll have a full image gallery up at marvelousnews.com. There'll be a link in the video description below. As always, please leave a comment and let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Also, please like the video if you're so inclined and hit that subscribe button also down below. I'd really appreciate it. You can also follow me on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. I have links to those in the video description as well. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later.